are more vertically inclined. The vertical stream should now be up as well. Let me just check we're live for the horizontal stream, the standard stream. There we are. How are we all doing then? Hello in the chat. Hello, Liam. Hello, Truzel. Myths, how's it going? Maya, hello. What was that penalty? Yes. Don't you worry, we'll be talking about that in just a second. I've got a few different notes on that, and we'll try and get to the bottom of what was really going on with the Qatar. I don't know, do you want to call it like... It was the stewards. They also kind of got a few people involved. We'll delve into it. It was a bit of a weird penalty, it has to be said. But it has made a slight change to the starting grid. Hello, Antonio, mate. How are we doing? How long until the start of the Grand Prix? We've got about half an hour or so, just less than half an hour, about 32 minutes. No, 28 minutes. 28 minutes. I was reading 32. That means it's 28 minutes until the hour mark. But shall we start with that then, actually? Shall we start with Max Verstappen and the penalty that he has been given? Should have been on pole position, was on pole position, until it was then taken away by the stewards. So let's delve into it a little bit and sort of see what we had in terms of the details. Oh, that is the wrong one. So first and foremost, there's my background. First and foremost, I thought we'd just quickly delve into... Oh, what's happened there? Hang on. It's not formatted itself correctly. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. We've had a minute. Just quickly shuffle that around. But I was going to delve into the fact that, well, first and foremost, we weren't expecting Max Verstappen to be even in the conversation for a possible pole position, because if you look at the pace that he had in the sprint, it was nowhere near the pace that he then had in the full qualifying session. So that was already a bit of a surprise. And I wanted to just quickly have a little glance at where Red Bull were able to find this pace from, because they did completely turn around their fortunes between sprint qualifying and then qualifying for the full Grand Prix. There wasn't too much of a difference in terms of temperatures and bits and pieces either, but they just managed to sort the setup of the car out in a particular fashion. So let's delve into the data and have a little look. Now, we do have to give a little pinch of salt with this, because the qualifying times in full qualifying were 3, 4, 5 tenths quicker, generally speaking, than the sprint qualifying session and the final sprint qualifying session that we saw. But you can just see there's a few areas of the track. Oh, where's... There we go. So many technical little bits going wrong, haven't I? There were so many little areas of the track. Like, I want to highlight this one here, where Max Verstappen is carrying so much more speed through those corners, like the high speed corners of the middle sector, and also just out of the final couple of corners as well. The balance of that Red Bull car is so much better now. Like, so much better in that final qualifying session compared to the sprint qualifying. And it just seemed to me like Red Bull used that sprint race as a little bit of a practice session. We obviously saw Sergio Perez come into the pits, an adjustment to the front wing on Sergio Perez's car, and I think that is what's led to their car just being so much better balanced. And therefore, we can't really tell what Max Verstappen is going to be able to do when it comes to this full Grand Prix, because I think the race pace that they're going to have inside of that Red Bull car is going to be completely different to the sprint race itself. But we then have to delve into the qualifying session itself. And It was very, very tight. Again, really, really close between Max Verstappen and George Russell. Verstappen getting the edge by 55 thousandths of a second. And again, it was those key areas, I'm going to highlight exactly the same corners again, where, ooh, come on, give me the pen. I'm going to highlight those exact same corners again. And that was the difference between Max Verstappen and George Russell. Max Verstappen just kind of keeping his foot in a little bit more on those high-speed corners and actually seemingly trusting the car that little bit more than George Russell. I think maybe had those tyres in just that tiny little bit better of a window. But here in particular, through the first kind of high-speed corners of the second sector, that was the real difference maker. You can see how much time George Russell loses. He does manage to make it up a little bit and then loses it all over again. It was those two corners where Max Verstappen really did come to the fore. We're talking turn 4, 5, 6 for Max Verstappen. That really high speed just kept his foot in. And then through that final sector, you're talking sort of round turn 12, 13, 14, round to 15 as well. Max Verstappen, again, just keeping his foot in and getting the benefit and having that better grip, especially on a track like Qatar, should bode really, really well for Max Verstappen's race pace. So even though he is dropping a position, I don't think that this is Max Verstappen out of it. And generally speaking, I also think that Norris and Piastri behind, like we saw, Lando Norris has such a good pace when it came to the race, or the sprint race, I should say, yesterday. I don't think it's going to be done and dusted at all for Lando Norris in this. So we've got a proper three-way battle for the victory now. And Russell, Verstappen, Norris could all easily come out on top. I feel like it's been a little bit weird to not see the Ferraris up there, considering their pace of recent weekends. Qatar wasn't expecting to be a great track for the Ferrari team. Charles Leclerc starting 5th. I think it's going to be tough for Charles Leclerc to close in. I do think we're going to have a 3, maybe 4-way battle for the victory, but I don't think there will be a Ferrari in the mix for that. But that are the two areas I really wanted to highlight, because Max Verstappen being able to improve on those areas between the sprint qualifying and the qualifying session just gives me a little bit of an inkling that he is going to be able to carry a bit more speed through that. Although he did make a little error on the final corner where George Russell was able to make up a tiny little bit of time, hence why it was so close between the two of them. You can see George Russell generally out of the corner a little bit better than Max Verstappen on those kind of more difficult corners. So also, if George does drop behind Verstappen again, George will get a really good run out of those corners running into turn 1, where you can get an overtaking opportunity going, right? That's what we saw with him and Piastri yesterday. He complained about Piastri getting that DRS from his teammate and then playing the team game a little bit too much. But I think George Russell's in a really good position. If he does lose the lead, he's got a Mercedes car that actually looks like it can battle back for the victory. So, as I say, a really, really close battle for the top 3 because of those changes to the Red Bull car and because of what we've seen from Mercedes and what we've seen from McLaren already. I think then going into the penalty and talking about why Max Verstappen isn't starting on pole position. So Verstappen did lose his pole position, a 1-place grid penalty, which I don't know if we've ever seen before. Have we ever seen a 1-place grid penalty before? I can't think of one. I did mean to Google it before we kind of went live, but kind of skipped my mind a little bit as I was setting up. I can't remember the last time we've seen a 1-place grid penalty. If somebody can find that out for me, that would be absolutely amazing. But it was for this incident here with George Russell in qualifying. Was it a penalty? I personally don't think so. Okay, I think let's go through it from the perspective of the FIA and the stewards and why they've maybe given that as a penalty. And then let's look at it from my perspective, maybe your guys' perspective as well. And I'll try and delve into why I don't think it should have been a penalty and why it sets a little bit of a poor precedent moving forward. So Verstappen coming into this, obviously, he did manage to get that pole position by half a tenth or so. You could say that that margin of victory, or the margin of points over, or the margin that Max Verstappen had there to George Russell in qualifying, is so minimal that it could have been down to those tyres just being in a slightly better place. And obviously this incident did mean George Russell's tyres will put out just a little bit. So effectively what happened is Russell was coming up behind Max Verstappen with a huge speed difference through the right-handers in the final sector. And it's because George Russell was gearing up for his flying lap. So George Russell was trying to get that temperature into the tyres. He was starting to work the engine up, work the car up. And we often see this, right? As you're building up towards a flying lap, especially here in Qatar, where you've got turns 12, 13, 14, 15, you want to be carrying your speed all the way through there. Because then when you get down to 16 and you're launching around to start your flying lap, you then have that, you know, your tires in the right place, your engine in the right place, you're feeling underneath the car and ready to go. But I do have to point out that therefore it was not a push lap for George Russell. So it's not like Max Verstappen got in the way of George Russell during a push lap. Instead, he got in the way of George Russell whilst they were both on laps that were sort of building up to going over to a full lap. Max Verstappen was investigated not for impeding, though. Seen a few people kind of talking about it and saying, well, Max Verstappen impeded George Russell. He was in front of George Russell. Surely that's a penalty. It was not for impeding. The penalty was given for driving unnecessarily slowly. So yes, he did get in the way of George Russell. And you can see as George Russell is coming towards the apex here, he's going to be looking at that apex. He's maybe expecting Max Verstappen to shuffle to the inside of the track here. If Max Verstappen is going slowly, Verstappen had just slowed down to let Lando Norris and Fernando Alonso pass. So I think George Russell is obviously looking to that apex. He's expecting maybe Max Verstappen to move over to the right-hand side and get away from George Russell, especially because George is coming with so much more speed than Max Verstappen. But that wasn't then the case. As they came around, Max Verstappen did not move over to the right-hand side of the track. And as George Russell kind of came around the corner, you can see here he had to steer away and lost a lot of time, actually. Just kind of reshuffling his hands. As I say, he wasn't on a flying lap, but that tyre temperature, that window that he was trying to get the tyres into, maybe that was impacted by this, where he did have to really fight with the car and keep it on the racing line because he stamped on the brakes to make sure that he didn't hit the back of Max Verstappen. And then even through this corner, Max Verstappen actually takes the racing line and still doesn't get out of the way of George Russell. But it's that going excessively slowly, or going unnecessarily slowly, as I should say, in the words of the race director. Basically, the race director's event notes said that the maximum time between the track's safety car lines for the weekend has been set at 1 minute and 40 seconds. And actually, Yuki Tsunoda and Sergio Perez had already been called up about this. A few drivers going very, very slowly in their build-up laps, again, to try and get their tyres in the right place. Max Verstappen may be doing the same. Car 1, who is Max Verstappen, was outside of that delta. He explains that he was outside of the delta because of what I just said. He let Lando Norris and let Fernando Alonso pass. But George Russell claimed that George Russell claimed that he was only going quicker and he was only trying to build up a little bit of momentum so that he would adhere to that delta, and didn't expect Max Verstappen to be on the racing line as he was. And he stated that if the car's going so slowly in the high-speed corners, they shouldn't be on the racing line. So that was the kind of to's and fro's between the drivers. as I said, he didn't end up with an impeding penalty. So even though George Russell was kind of fighting the case of you shouldn't be on the racing line, the stewards weren't too concerned about that. But they did go back to the driving unnecessarily slowly. They did go back to the lap times of Max Verstappen and George Russell. And they did deem that Max Verstappen was driving too slowly. And Max Verstappen should have been going quicker, especially in that portion of the racetrack. Like if I just show you the racetrack itself, it's this final third sector down here, just past the yellow line, is super high speed all the way around there. So you're talking turns 12, 13, 14, down to 15. You're carrying a lot of speed through that final sector. And that's where Max Verstappen got called up, basically. And that's where Max Verstappen ended up losing his pole position because they deemed it to be him going too slowly and requiring a penalty for that. Then comes the fact that the penalty is just a little bit of a weird one, isn't it? The penalty, a one-place grid penalty. Sarah's done the research for us and Googled it. It was 8 years ago, Nico Hülkenberg at the German Grand Prix for something about his tyres. It's an odd look, isn't it? It is a very odd look indeed. Is that a marker? I thought it was a cigarette. Sorry, yeah, it is a pencil that I used to draw on things. But that was why Max Verstappen ended up getting that penalty. And hopefully that clears up a little bit of the twos and fro's. I've heard a few people talking about it and whether it was an impeding penalty. But it was not an impeding penalty. It was a penalty for driving too slowly. Although, you know, is that effectively an impeding penalty? Maybe. They've just kind of given it maybe a little bit of a different name, even though it's a similar kind of incident. But George Russell then inherits pole position from Max Verstappen. 10 minutes away from it then, let's have a little look at the starting grid in terms of the qualifying times. As I say, a shuffle around a touch at the front and a few drivers mixing and matching their positions after the sprint race yesterday. From the top, George Russell taking that pole position, as we said. Then Max Verstappen slotting in just behind him in second place. So Max Verstappen more than capable of moving forwards, even with that one-place grid penalty. I don't think it's going to affect the overall race that much. I do think that Max Verstappen is well within a chance of picking up a victory here today. Then we have the two McLarens behind, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. They were both a little bit disappointed, I think, with the pace of the McLaren car in the end. Obviously, after starting on pole position for the sprint race and then getting that 1-2 in the sprint race as well, they maybe expected a little bit more, but Lando Norris just couldn't quite get there. Oscar Piastri hasn't looked 100% either. But is slowly starting to build up, I think, Oscar Piastri, and did really, really well in the sprint race. Obviously managed to win the sprint race. Did well to keep George Russell at bay, even if he did have a little bit of a helping hand from Lando Norris there to make sure that that happened, but still had to get the job done, still had to keep George Russell behind him. So I feel like Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, more Lando Norris is going to be in the mix because of this kind of pace that he showed in the sprint race being very, very quick indeed. I think once we get onto the medium tyres, Lando Norris is kind of the one to keep an eye on in terms of his race pace moving forwards. Charles Leclerc and then Lewis Hamilton starting 5th and 6th side by side. Not yet teammates, but soon to be. Lewis Hamilton still not overly happy with his positioning, and he's in a bit of a weird spot now, Lewis Hamilton, isn't he? He sort of said earlier on in the week, he's realizing now that it is finally coming to an end. Like, this is the end of his time at Mercedes. And George Russell starting on pole position, him starting in 6th place. Again, it's just another weekend where he hasn't quite done it in qualifying. It's just one of those things. When you point at the map with a pen, really look like a teacher. I mean, that is my full-time job, so makes sense. But Charles Leclerc starting in 5th place. As I say, even though the Ferraris have been probably the most informed team of the last, well, sort of 5-6 races since Monza, really. I know they've had some ups and downs. Singapore wasn't an amazing weekend for them, but generally speaking, the Ferrari's been pretty up there. I do feel like today, maybe it's just going to be the fourth fastest car. Like Russell, Verstappen, Norris just look a lot quicker than Charles Leclerc so far this weekend. Carlos Sainz then behind in 7th place in his penultimate race for Ferrari. Again, Ferrari trying to close the gap in terms of the Constructors' Championship. They need to go into the final race within 44 points of McLaren to be in with a shot of winning the Constructors' Championship. McLaren can obviously seal that Constructors' Championship if they are more than 44 points ahead going into Abu Dhabi next time around. Fernando Alonso, best of the rest, in 8th place. He managed to outperform Sergio Perez in the final qualifying session. And again, just a real swing in terms of performance. The Aston Martins have not looked great in recent race weekends and didn't look great in the sprint race either. And then suddenly have kind of switched their fortunes and jumped into the top 10 with Fernando Alonso. And I know that they haven't got much to fight for anymore, and the Aston Martin team have seemed a little bit like they aren't too bothered about the results for the remainder of the season. You know, they're looking more towards 2025 and realistically 2026 as a team, to be honest with you. But at least they are moving forwards. And Fernando Alonso, maybe one final race at the end of the season, just to remind everybody that they can score points in a Grand Prix and that they do have the ability to just like do something with that Aston Martin car would be really great. And then just behind, Kevin Magnussen is starting in the point scoring places. Nico Hülkenberg complained about a little bit of a problem during the qualifying after what was a really, really solid sprint from Nico Hülkenberg. He had an engine issue. That is my name, yeah? James Blunt? No. James, though, yeah. Didn't know you were a teacher. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, I have a 9 to 5 job. Do this in the evenings. All my thoughts on Lando today. Again, I think he's in the mix for the victory. I feel like it's going to be all down to what kind of pace he has on the medium compound tire. We need to see Lando have a stint before we give a real overview, which I know is like a complete cop-out, but I think we do need to see at least one full stint on the medium tire to see where the see where the McLaren is. Why is Russell on pole? Max Verstappen taking a 1-place grid penalty. Weird one, but one nonetheless. And then just outside of the points, we should talk about the bottom 10 drivers. Pierre Gasly just missed out on Q3. He's been absolutely flying in that Alpine car of late, hasn't he? Pierre Gasly's really come into form towards the end of the season, trying to drag Alpine to a Constructors' Championship 6th place. He starts in 11th. Zhou Guanyu and Valtteri Bottas, both of the stake Saubers, managing to get through to Q2. They start 12th and 13th. Yuki Tsunoda starts in 14th place for RB, the highest placed RB driver, with a Haas and an Alpine in front of him. A lot of work to do for Yuki Tsunoda. Lance Stroll drops into 15th place. He managed to get through to Q2, but it wasn't amazing in terms of the performance from Lance Stroll. Alex Albon was the man who dropped out in 16th place in Q1. Liam Lawson was behind him. Nico Hülkenberg, as I say, had a little bit of an issue, so dropped out in 18th place. We don't often see him that low in the qualifying standings. Colapinto and Esteban Ocon at the back of the pack. Esteban Ocon, I think, just getting to the point in the season where he's had enough of that Alpine car and is very much looking forward to being in a Haas next year. Do I think Ferrari could go on to win or double podium today? No, I don't think so. I think they're the only team that isn't in the mix for a victory, to be honest. Well, of those top 4, not of the 10, but of the top 4 teams, I think Ferrari just look the most off the pace if you looked at the sprint race, qualifyings, etc., this weekend. I wasn't expecting this to be their weekend. I was expecting Ferrari to be really good in Vegas and Ferrari to be pretty good in Abu Dhabi. The Qatar weekend was always going to be the one that was a bit tough for the Scuderia when it came to that Constructors' Championship battle. And I think that's now paying dividends, isn't it? Both of the McLaren cars ahead of both of the Ferraris. It's going to be tough for them to gain points to McLaren going into the Abu Dhabi weekend. But I think if they're within the 44-point range, I do think Abu Dhabi should be a really good weekend for the Ferrari team. Any final questions, queries, bits and pieces before we go into it? If we could hit that like button. I know Sally was doing a great job getting the likes in early on, but it does massively, massively help out the stream if you can hit that like button before we get into the penultimate Grand Prix of the season. One more to go. Of course, if you do enjoy these live streams, you can join us every single race throughout the season. I know there's only one more less to go, but we will be back for 2025 with a bang. And also lots more live streams coming in the off season. A few different challenge videos here and there that I've got planned. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss it. As I say, we do these live streams every single competitive Formula One session. Maybe in the future, we'll even be able to do the free practices and other bits here and there as well. What do I think the chances of K-Mag committing war crimes on the track? Unlikely. I think Kevin Magnussen's been really good in the last few sort of races. I know he missed a Grand Prix. Ollie Behrman took his place, but apart from that, he's kind of hit a little bit of freedom now that he knows he's not on the Formula One grid anymore as Kevin Magnussen, hasn't he? He's just started to drive a lot better than he has throughout the sort of first 2/3 of the year, really, which is a shame. Maybe he could have held on to his position within the team for another year, but Nico Hülkenberg's been consistently the better Haas driver, haven't they? Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Very, very much appreciate that. Football Edits. Only 10 away from hitting 100 likes before the race. Well, we definitely have to try and hit that 100 likes then, don't we, before we get into the Grand Prix itself. A couple of minutes to go now. The drivers are situated on the grid. We will get underway with the formation lap in a moment. What are the chances of Kevin Magnussen on the podium? Again, let's just have Kevin Magnussen finish somewhere between 8th and 10th. That would be brilliant for him. Let's not set the bar too high or too low. What do I think of Liam falling off? Too much pressure? Maybe. I think it's tough for Liam, isn't it? Because a lot of these tracks he's never driven before. A lot of these tracks are pretty tricky, like in terms of tires and getting the tires into the right window. I think that's the most difficult thing to do in Formula One right now, is get yourself into a position where you have the tires in the right position every single lap. Like, you don't just have to do that in qualifying and obviously get it in the absolute perfect window for a 1 minute 20-second qualifying lap. You then also have to do it for 57 laps of the Grand Prix. And I think Liam Lawson has just sort of realized that is not easy on some of these tracks. Vegas, it was super cold, and getting those tires into the right window was really difficult for everybody. That's why Mercedes suddenly jumped to being the fastest car out on track. Qatar is a really, really hard track to get your tires in the right window because it's super high speed through the middle sector and the final sector. And it's so hard to get those tires in the right window. And I think that's what we're seeing from Liam Lawson, honestly. Then we're just seeing that little bit of inexperience. And same with Franco Colapinto. I feel like that's why Franco Colapinto's fallen off in the last couple of races as well. Obviously, he struggled in the wet, did Franco Colapinto, when it came to Brazil. Again, that's where tires are really difficult to control during the wet conditions. And then Las Vegas and Qatar, both of those Grand Prix are really, really hard on the driver's ability to get the car in the right window and maintain the tires in the right place. So I think we're just seeing there from Lawson, from Colapinto, that bit of inexperience. And we saw that from Oscar Piastri last year. You got to remember, like, Piastri didn't hit the ground running and was the driver that he is now. I remember at the end of last season, I was looking back at a few Grand Prix and thinking, Oscar Piastri, if he could just get his tires in the right window a little bit more often, he'd be in a much, much better place. And he started to do that this season. hence why his racing has improved. But we are about to get underway. Let's get the more detailed race board running for you. Ooh, up to 143 likes, are we? Let's see what we can do today. I reckon penultimate race of the season. I'm not expecting Singapore numbers. If you were here for the Singapore Grand Prix, you'll know it was also the 100k celebration. We managed to get over 1,000 likes on the Singapore Grand Prix watch along. Maybe we could aim for, 300-400 though. In that realm. I reckon we could definitely push towards that. And of course, we are chasing 110,000 subscribers. So if you are new here, try and get that. We've got a week left to go before the end of the season. A couple of thousand short of the 110 goal. That we set that after having hit 100. The goal was definitely 100 to begin with. But if we can hit 110 before the end of the season, that would be absolutely amazing. And as I say, even though the season is ending, lots and lots of content still coming your way on the channel. And then on top of that, just one final plug as the formation lap continues. If you could become a member of the channel, there's also a link to the Patreon down below as well. For that, you get additional content almost every single week. You get an additional mailbag episode of the podcast that I do. You get additional links to our members-only Discord, which again, if you're a member right now and you're not already in the Discord, you should get involved in that because we have a lot of watch-alongs coming up. We're watching Senna at the moment on Netflix. We watched episode 1 on Friday. We're watching episode 2 the Friday before the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And then we're going to be rattling through episodes 3, 4, 5, and 6 before Christmas as well. And then we're also going to be watching a few documentaries and films here and there in the off season, as well as some old school Formula One races that I want to go back and watch together. So get involved in that. Make sure that you're signed up to the Discord. Make sure that you're signed up to the Patreon or become a member if you can. Massively, massively helps out the channel. And as I said, you do get a lot of behind the scenes access and extra bits and pieces coming your way, even though we are off the track until the 2025 campaign. Of course, one more race to go. Let's not forget about Abu Dhabi. Let's have a little look, though, as the cars are now coming around the final corner. Franco Colapinto and Esteban Ocon at the back of the grid there. Once they get to a stopped position, we will get underway here in Qatar. George Russell already looking across at Max Verstappen. The two of them, Max Verstappen already pointing his Red Bull car towards the Mercedes of George Russell. And here comes Esteban Ocon then to slot into the final grid position. The green flag is waved. 5 red lights to come. And here we are then. The 2024 Qatar Grand Prix gets underway. And it's a good launch from George Russell, but Max Verstappen is right there beside him again. Max Verstappen wants to go down in towards turn 1. He dives up the inside, and here comes Lando Norris as well. Lando Norris comes up the inside of Verstappen, down towards turn 1. It's a really solid move from both Verstappen and Lando Norris. There's a yellow flag in Sector 1. I think it's Nico Hülkenberg has gone for a spin. Ocon is there as well. But Max Verstappen has taken the lead of this Grand Prix. Lando Norris has managed to jump up into 2nd place. George Russell into 3rd. Charles Leclerc has also jumped Oscar Piastri into 5th. Lewis Hamilton has dropped all the way down to 9th. So Sainz is up into 6th place. Perez is up into 7th. Fernando Alonso in 8th. Kevin Magnussen has just been outdone by Yuki Tsunoda. And Tsunoda jumped up into 10th. But it was a clash in the first sector. Franco Colapinto and Esteban Ocon still stationary there. And I think we might indeed have a safety car. Safety car is deployed. And Nico Hülkenberg, I think, is continuing on. It's Ocon and Colapinto that are in the gravel and have come to a complete stop. And yeah, Esteban Ocon's car is most certainly not in a driving condition, even though he isn't buried in the gravel as Franco Colapinto is. I'll be honest, I didn't see what happened at the back there. I was watching Lando Norris making a move around the outside, trying to get past Nico Hülkenberg's left rear tyre. has come off. It is a left rear puncture for Nico Hülkenberg. He should be able to get back around to the pits, though, and get a new set of boots onto that Haas car. Started on the hard compound tyre, did Nico Hülkenberg. But those three at the back of the pack seem to have come together. Ocon and Colapinto came off worse. And we continue around. The safety car has now picked up Max Verstappen, our race leader. Verstappen from Norris and Russell down to third. George Russell just got a little bit caught out there because Max Verstappen was trying to go deep into turn one. Pushed George Russell out to the left-hand side of the track. And as they did that, it then allowed that space for Lando Norris up the inside as well. Lando Norris with a really, really good start. George Russell in the second phase just allowed Max Verstappen to get up the inside of him. Verstappen then later on the brakes. Russell has to go all the way around the outside at turn one. That opens the door to Lando Norris. But then Verstappen also has the inside line at turn two because Norris went up the inside of turn one. So Max Verstappen getting the benefit there on both of the cars. And even though Lando Norris was ahead just for a moment, as we can see Max Verstappen up the inside of turn two and retakes the lead of the Grand Prix. Oh, and there was it's Nico Hülkenberg and Esteban Ocon come together and they just collect Franco Colapinto. Don't think there's anything that the Argentine could have done there. Esteban Ocon gets a really good start, actually. Comes towards the back of Nico Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg up the inside. And I think Hülkenberg just lost the rear of the car there. And just clipped the front right tyre of Esteban Ocon. And then as Esteban Ocon lost control, it also meant... I think Hülkenberg was just trying not to hit into the back of Alex Albon there. And it all went awry from that position. Hülkenberg collides with Ocon. Oh, and it's because Alex Albon also collided by Lance Stroll. And yeah, Alex Albon is wiped by Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll going down towards turn one, gets all out of shape. Oh. Did Alex Albon just maybe cut in front of him that little bit too much? I need to see the onboard again from that perspective. Zhou Guanyu just behind. Let's have a little look then. Alex Albon around the outside. Lance Stroll tries to keep his position. Zhou Guanyu is also has to duck out of the way. And Lance Stroll. Albon could have gone a little bit wider there, though. But Lance Stroll does also make that contact happen. There's chaos all the way up and down the grid at the moment. Verstappen is still leading. The safety car is still out. They're just moving Ocon and Colapinto's cars. Albon and Stroll did continue despite that big collision. Zhou Guanyu managed to get the jump on both of them. Was actually behind at the time. Now up into 15th place. Lost a couple of positions at the start, did both of the Stake Sauber cars. Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda probably the biggest beneficiaries in their RBs. Tsunoda up into 10th place and points on the cards for the RB team, where Liam Lawson's now up into 14th. Looking at Nico Hülkenberg down in 18th, the last of the runners. Kevin Magnussen has also dropped out of the points. Haas, remember, leading in that battle for 6th in the constructors' standings. We can have a little look at the championship standings as it would be right now. McLaren gaining again on Ferrari. Ferrari only having Charles Leclerc in 4th place, being their highest point scoring finish at the moment. It's down there in 6th place, where at the moment, Haas would hold on to that 6th place. RB, the only team scoring a point in that battle. And then in terms of the Drivers' Championship, not too many changes at all in terms of the drivers that are out on track right now. Even without Sargent, Williams are losing so much money. Yeah, they have had an absolute disaster in the last few races, haven't they? With Colapinto colliding with the barriers in Brazil twice. Then again in Las Vegas, and now one more time in Qatar. Alex Albon also collided with the barriers in Brazil. A huge crash in Brazil. But Alex Albon meant that he didn't get to take part in the Grand Prix, of course. It was at least a little bit better in Las Vegas for him-ish. And then it went one more lap of the safety car by the looks of things. Just to run you through the order then, Max Verstappen is leading from Lando Norris, George Russell in third. Charles Leclerc has jumped up into fourth place ahead of Oscar Piastri, who's dropped to fifth. Carlos Sainz has also jumped a position up into sixth place after a really poor start from Lewis Hamilton, who we'll get to in a moment, because Sergio Perez is now up into the top 7. He's in 7th place. Fernando Alonso still running best of the rest of the midfield cars in 8th. Lewis Hamilton 9th. Yuki Tsunoda, the final point scoring place, in 10th. Kevin Magnussen, though, will be trying to close in. He's 11th at the moment. Pierre Gasly has dropped down to 12th place. Tsunoda been the real winner. But the safety car is going to come in. They have been able to finally move Esteban Ocon and Franco Colapinto's cars after that collision at the start. And Ocon and Colapinto, well, Ocon actually came together with Nico Hülkenberg at the start. That sent Esteban Ocon spinning, and the Frenchman collected Franco Colapinto, and both of them were sent into the gravel. Saw a video about it. Yeah, Williams are going to have a really tough time for next year. Heard a rumor from James Vowles saying that Williams doesn't have enough money for next year. Is that true? They will have enough money. It's just obviously what they would have wanted to spend that money on, they maybe can't anymore because they've had to spend a lot of money on repairing parts. And, you know, it's not like the parts are just for this season. They would have carried over some of those front wings, rear wings into next year too. And you can't when they're in pieces. So the team has to rebuild and replace them. Here we are then. Let's get back underway with the racing. Max Verstappen is going to start lap 5 of this Grand Prix in front. Of course, no DRS for the first lap here until we get back in full racing conditions. And Oscar Piastri is trying to catch Charles Leclerc out. Charles Leclerc left a little bit sleeping in the Ferrari, and Oscar Piastri's managed to get the jump down into turn 1. Piastri back up into 4th place. There's a bit of a battle at the back. Oh no, Yuki Tsunoda. Oh no, sorry, it's Liam Lawson has gone for a spin. Another collision at turn 1. Lawson flying across the back of our picture. He's dropped down to 18th place. Wow. Nico Hülkenberg has jumped up into 16th. I think it was a Stake Sauber car. Was it Valtteri Bottas that also collected with Liam Lawson, but didn't manage to lose as much time as the New Zealander? Luckily, nobody came to a full stop there. We haven't got another safety car coming our way. Liam Lawson is back and moving again, but it was Liam Lawson flying across the back of the screen. And we now have still Max Verstappen leading. He's trying to get outside of that DRS range of Lando Norris. George Russell behind is outside of DRS range. Oscar Piastri closing in. We saw Oscar Piastri under real pressure from George Russell yesterday in the sprint. The tables have turned. The turns have tabled. The tables have turned. And George Russell is under pressure now from Oscar Piastri. Still no DRS, of course, for this first lap of full running. DRS to come, though, next lap. And here's the restart. Let's see if that move happened. Oh, that's just the move of Oscar Piastri on Charles Leclerc. I was maybe hoping we'd see the collision between Bottas and Lawson. Ah, here it is. Liam Lawson goes up the inside of Valtteri Bottas. You can see Liam Lawson almost completely alongside Valtteri Bottas. Goes super deep into turn 1. Oh, and I think just couldn't quite get it. Just went a little bit too deep, did Liam Lawson. Just lost the car there. Fernando Alonso also lost a position to Lewis Hamilton. Actually, Yuki Tsunoda as well went around the outside. It was perfect from Tsunoda. And Fernando Alonso on the radio saying that the speed on the straight is worrying, as he then has also dropped behind Magnussen and Gasly. Fernando Alonso actually, has fallen like a stone since that restart. Looks absolutely nowhere right now. Hamilton back up into 8th. Yuki Tsunoda still the highest scoring midfield car now then in 9th place. Kevin Magnussen back up into the points, and the Alpine of Pierre Gasly just behind in 11th. So there's real battles running all the way down the grid. Oscar Piastri with DRS now then down towards turn 1. Is he going to be able to have a go at George Russell? Not this time around. Carlos Sainz is also having a little look at his teammate just behind. He's in 5th place as Charles Leclerc. Carlos Sainz in 6th. Yuki Tsunoda is just falling away from the back of Lewis Hamilton and maybe opening the door for Kevin Magnussen to have a little look at the Japanese driver. But Pierre Gasly is right there as well, causing Kevin Magnussen a little bit of a headache. Liam Lawson has just managed to move past Lance Stroll. So Lance Stroll now down into 5th place. Wonder if there's any damage to some of these cars that are running around right now. Been a few collisions, a few guys running, even though they have spun around. Nico Hulkenberg, of course, has had a pit stop. Lance Stroll, a pit stop as well. So they will be going super long on their tyres at this point in the Grand Prix. And hoping that they can do something a little bit special. And I think Lance Stroll's actually going to retire the car there. You can see the Aston Martin team have come out into the pit box. So unless it's another pit stop, I think we're going to have our 3rd retirement from the Grand Prix. And Lance Stroll taken off the back of the pack. Verstappen comes across the finish line. He's outside of DRS range of Lando Norris, doing really well at the front of the pack. Actually, Verstappen to just put in enough of a lap time gap to Lando Norris. Lance Stroll picks up the penalty. Then it's a 10-second penalty for Lance Stroll for causing that collision. And Lance Stroll is also going to box to retire the car. So that penalty will actually roll over, won't it? Oh. Oh, maybe they want to, they want to serve that penalty. So the team actually asking him to stay out, and they have come in. And even though it's on the graphic there, it said he retired the car. That's not the case. Lance Stroll is back out on the track. Makes you wonder if he's just going to do one more lap to serve that 10-second penalty and then go for it. I don't know. Little bit of a weird one for Lance Stroll. He's in the pits. He's out of the pits once more. A 2nd pit stop for him already. 44 seconds adrift of Liam Lawson now in 17th place. Needs a safety car and a miracle, does Lance Stroll, if anything is going to happen for the Canadian. But let's talk about the top end of the grid. Max Verstappen sets another fastest lap. And Fernando Alonso is starting to lose his head. The Aston Martin struggling on the straights. And Fernando Alonso saying 2 years, the same problem down the straights. They just can't get that Aston Martin car to go quickly in a straight line. And Fernando Alonso starting to show his frustrations as he's dropped outside of the points and down to 12th. Oh, that was why Max Verstappen was so much quicker than Lando Norris. Lando Norris actually getting his tyres into the gravel. Oh, and Fernando Alonso rejoined, then had to bail out of it. I think Fernando Alonso might get a little bit of a penalty for that as well. Oh, there's a false start that's been noted for Lewis Hamilton. If that is the case, that's usually a hard and fast penalty for Lewis Hamilton. So that has now come up on the investigations tracker. You can see a lot of investigations ongoing. Lance Stroll, the only driver that's been given a penalty. Albon under investigation. Hulkenberg, Ocon, and Colapinto, even though their investigation have been sort of cleared. But Lewis Hamilton now on the list as well for a false start. And yeah, he's even apologized on the radio as Lewis Hamilton because of the poor start that he made. He knows he was to blame for that. Has managed to move back up into 8th place, though. Lewis Hamilton has at least moved ahead of the midfield drivers that he lost out to. And there is Lance Stroll coming to a stop in the pits. And Lance Stroll drops into the garage and is now retiring the car. I'm late. What happened to Colapinto and Ocon? Ocon basically just came in a little bit too hot. So did Nico Hülkenberg down towards turn 1. Hülkenberg lost the rear end of the car, just collided with the front left tyre of Esteban Ocon. Ocon sent spinning, and he collected Franco Colapinto on his way off the racetrack. So both of those guys out. And Lance Stroll also now retiring the car. Here comes Kevin Magnussen passing Yuki Tsunoda. Replay of that going down towards turn 1. Tsunoda pushes him really wide, but then he has the inside line to turn 2. The dust flying off the back of that Haas car. And he just kept his foot in there. And a great move from Kevin Magnussen, has to be said. Stewards are now investigating that collision between Valtteri Bottas and Liam Lawson as well. Tsunoda's now under pressure from Pierre Gasly in that RB car, seemingly struggling against the rest of the midfield drivers because Tsunoda was running in 9th place. It looks like he's now going to drop outside of the points. Gasly looking at a move up the inside. Doesn't go for it this time around. Down towards turn 1, but the Alpine of Pierre Gasly set to strike the old AlphaTauri teammates as they were a couple of seasons ago. Now trying to fight for 6th place in the Constructors' Championship. Alpine overtaken by Haas now. Gasly complaining. Tsunoda moving under braking too late, says the Frenchman. Stewards will also have a little look at that. But they've got a list of things to do of the race stewards right now. There's quite a few different incidents being played out. Are they both okay? Yeah, they're both absolutely fine. Jump start from Lewis Hamilton. Yeah, it looks like a hard and fast penalty is coming Lewis Hamilton's way. And Liam Lawson has just picked up a penalty for his incident with Valtteri Bottas as well. And it's a 10-second penalty for them. And Gasly saying Tsunoda moving a little bit too much and not very happy with Tsunoda's defensive positioning. And here comes Tsunoda and Gasly once again down towards turn 1. Huge move for the Constructors' Championship this. If Alpine and Gasly can get ahead of Tsunoda and maybe even catch the back of Kevin Magnussen, could completely switch the look of this championship. Of course, 2 more races to run. The penultimate race of the season. You're looking at that top 8 being those top 4 teams and disappearing away. Kevin Magnussen 6 seconds adrift of Hamilton. So realistically, there's only 6 points to play for here for these teams in the middle of the pack. Haas currently lead the rest by 3 points. That would be another couple of points going in Haas's favour. Put them 5 points ahead of Alpine going into the final race of the season as it stands. 5 points is a huge ask. I know, obviously, we've seen that Alpine can score more than 5 points, but 5 points would be a massive, massive ask. Though Norris just took a 10th off of him. This is where the phases of those tyres comes into play just a little bit. We could see Lando Norris just being told on the radio what they can see, Max Verstappen's tyres in a similar position to ours. Interesting. Pierre Gasly going for that move on Tsunoda and getting that move done on Tsunoda. Gasly moves up into 10th spot. And probably going to forget about the Tsunoda moving under braking incident. is Zhou Guanyu. What's happened? So, oh, they're just looking at that Liam Lawson and Valtteri Bottas incident. Yeah, Liam Lawson picked up a 10-second penalty for that. And I think quite rightly so. I think he just goes a little bit too deep into turn one, does Liam Lawson. And Lawson is now running at the back of the pack. And his teammate Yuki Tsunoda has also just dropped outside of the point scoring places. Lando Norris then sets the fastest lap of the race. Here we go. Is Lando Norris just holding on to those tyres that a little bit better? And now able to push that little bit harder. Lewis Hamilton is also gaining on Sergio Perez pretty substantially. Fernando Alonso now looking at the back of Yuki Tsunoda. Fernando Alonso trying to go the long way around. Tsunoda tries to close the door on the exit of turn one, but Fernando Alonso has the run at him into turn two. And Fernando Alonso beautifully held on to and moves up into 11th place. Lewis Hamilton now hit with that penalty. And 5 seconds given to Lewis Hamilton for that false start. Everybody on the grid is collecting penalties. It's going that way, isn't it? We've got quite a lot of penalties being thrown. Lance Stroll got a 10-second penalty, which he has served. Liam Lawson had a 10-second penalty. Hamilton has a 5-second penalty now, but we've got a few more drivers under investigation still to come. So there should be, or could be, some more penalties coming in the next couple of laps. In fact, Fernando Alonso, no further investigation after that rejoining unsafely incident. Fastest lap now goes to Charles Leclerc, of all drivers, in the Ferraris. 3.5 seconds adrift of Oscar Piastri at the moment. Charles Leclerc now trying to gain back towards the top 4. Wasn't expecting the Ferraris to join the battle for the podium places, but I wouldn't say no at this point in the Grand Prix. Zhou Guanyu going for an overtake now on Yuki Tsunoda. And Tsunoda just seems like an absolute sitting duck. Don't know what that RB car has done, but Yuki Tsunoda, after an amazing start from the Japanese driver, where he jumped right up into the point scoring places and was running best of the rest at one point, was Yuki Tsunoda. Now getting outdone by a Stake Sauber. That is never a good look. Never, ever a good look, especially in 2024. Tsunoda now down into 13th and more under pressure from Valtteri Bottas than likely to get back past Zhou Guanyu. Zhou Guanyu, DRS wide open down towards turn one, goes around the outside. Gets that move done comfortably, does Zhou Guanyu. Looks like he's got 5 times the grip that Yuki Tsunoda has got right now. They are on identical tyres and identical strategies. Lando Norris has bounced back and set the fastest lap of the race once again. He's taken that fastest lap away from Charles Leclerc now. Still 1.7 seconds the gap. Tsunoda saying that he's pushing 100%. He's trying his absolute best. His race engineer saying, look, we know you're trying your best. Unfortunately, just haven't got the pace here today. Yuki Tsunoda in 13th now. Could it go to 14th? Valtteri Bottas, DRS wide open behind the Japanese man. Trying to close in. Valtteri Bottas, of course, his penultimate Grand Prix in Formula 1. As it seems, hasn't got a seat for 2025. Being tentatively linked to the Cadillac team for 2026. But could be the final couple of Grand Prix we see from Valtteri Bottas. He's trying to gain up to 13th place. Oscar Piastri is still chasing George Russell. Expecting Piastri to go for a little bit more of an attacking maneuver on George Russell, but hasn't had the opportunity as of yet. McLaren car, though, closing in. Oh, and then I say that. He then messes up on the final corner, does Oscar Piastri, and loses 3 or 4 attempts to George Russell by going wide. So Piastri DRS open, but will he still be within DRS range come the next lap? He needs to do something a little bit better in that middle sector if he is going to be. What happened to Colapinto, Ocon, and Stroll? Colapinto and Ocon came together at turn 1, so they both retired from the race together. There's actually an incident between Ocon and Nico Hülkenberg, and Ocon just collected Colapinto on the exit of turn 1, and then both of them disappeared off into the gravel there. And Lance Stroll had a coming together as well, which was then gave himself a 10-second penalty before retiring from the race. Not looking good. RB, at least RB gains points. Not at this point. Yuki Tsunoda falling backwards quickly. Charles Leclerc, let's check tyre pressures. Just being a little bit cautious that he might end up with a puncture. Of course, we did have mandated pit stops here last year because of the teams, and the FIA worried that there were going to be too many punctures during the Grand Prix. Lando Norris, another fastest lap from the McLaren man. Still 1.5 seconds adrift of Verstappen, though. It's not like he's taking chunks of time out of Max Verstappen. It's just about a tenth or so every now and then. Yeah, Gasly, though, closing in, trying to get towards that best of the rest spot. Kevin Magnussen, 8.5 seconds adrift of Hamilton. The front 8's pretty much locked in. So this battle for 6th place in the constructor standings between Haas and Alpine is playing out in 9th and 10th place. And this is going to be vital for both of them. Still a long way to go, of course. 40 laps left to go in this Grand Prix. But Gasly versus Magnussen is absolutely crucial. If Magnussen can gain a couple of points for Haas and just put them that extra point further ahead, as we can see with 1 race left to go and really just 3 points available, unless something happens to some of the drivers towards the top end, it would put Haas just too far for Alpine to reach realistically. But if Gasly can get himself in front of Kevin Magnussen, Alpine then gain a point on Haas, and it is all to play for with Abu Dhabi just around the corner next week. If you are enjoying this, if you could hit that like button, that'd be absolutely amazing. And subscribe to the channel if you're new. We're trying to hit 110,000 subscribers before we hit Abu Dhabi's Grand Prix weekend next weekend. Got 1 more week to do so. It's going to be tough. If all of you guys hit that subscribe button, we might just do it. Thank you for all of you watching. Massively appreciate it. Thank you to all of you who've joined on the short stream as well. Doing very good numbers today. Massively appreciate that. Can I summarize until now? It was a pretty dramatic start, to be honest. There was a lot of twos and fros. Obviously, Verstappen and Norris getting the jump on George Russell at the beginning. Charles Leclerc also managed to get in front of Oscar Piastri, but Piastri retook 4th place. Charles Leclerc dropping to 5th again. Carlos Sainz and Sergio Perez managed to gain on the fact that Lewis Hamilton had a really poor start, a false start, which has given Lewis Hamilton a 5-second penalty to also then deal with. Kevin Magnussen and Pierre Gasly, I think just by keeping themselves slightly cleaner in this, they've managed to put themselves in that best of the rest slot. Yuki Tsunoda was there to begin with. He was up there as best of the rest. So was Fernando Alonso, but Fernando Alonso's Aston Martin struggling with straight line pace, and Yuki Tsunoda's also just fallen like a stone as his tyres have disintegrated away from him. Magnussen and Gasly, the 2 drivers, then up in the point scoring places. Lance Stroll retired after a collision that he caused, meaning that he also picked up a 10-second penalty. And Esteban Ocon and Franco Colapinto caused a safety car at turn 1. It was actually Esteban Ocon hitting into the rear right tyre of Nico Hülkenberg that then sent Esteban Ocon spinning, and he collected Franco Colapinto in turn 1. So both of them had to retire. There you go. That is just about everything that's happened, I think. How is Yuki behind Joe? Yuki is just absolutely struggling and is about to lose a place to Valtteri Bottas, and now does. Valtteri Bottas moves his stake Sauber car in front of Yuki Tsunoda. And Tsunoda, I don't know what it is, whether those tyres have just completely gone for Tsunoda or the RB car just doesn't have any pace. Because as I say, Yuki Tsunoda was running 9th not too long ago. And it's only been within the last 10 laps or so that he has completely fallen off, Yuki Tsunoda, and now is all the way down in 14th. Alex Albon running behind him in 15th place. Albon had a collision of his own, of course, with Lance Stroll. Max Verstappen then sets the fastest lap. Lando Norris was closing in on the championship winner and race leader, but is now just having to settle in behind Max Verstappen. Still within 2 seconds. It's kind of jumping between 1.5 to 2 seconds adrift of Max Verstappen. Those two just running away. George Russell, 5.5 seconds adrift in third. Piastri, 4th, 1.5 seconds off the pace. Charles Leclerc is also gaining on Piastri pretty substantially. Was sort of nearly 4 seconds behind, now just 2.5. Carlos Sainz then another 2 seconds behind that. Sergio Perez and Lewis Hamilton have kind of been left for dead. Lewis Hamilton's dropped off the back of Sergio Perez quite substantially after picking up that 5-second penalty. Makes me wonder whether Lewis Hamilton just holding onto his tyres that little bit longer rather than bothering to go for the overtake on the Mexican driver. Pierre Gasly, the only driver within DRS range inside the top 10. Gasly trying to get the Alpine in front of Kevin Magnussen. Again, so crucial for that 6th place in the constructor standings. 2 points for Haas at the moment, 1 point for Alpine. That switch where Alpine would gain a point rather than lose a point could be massive going into the final race of the season. Fernando Alonso is running in 11th place. Zhou Guanyu and Valtteri Bottas doing very well indeed for the Stakes Sauber cars. Zhou Guanyu nearly 4 seconds adrift, though, of Fernando Alonso. So points unlikely. It would be the first points of the season if Stakes Sauber are able to do it. They need a little bit of a miracle. They need maybe a couple of drivers in the top 8 to just smack into one another. We've seen Max Verstappen and Lando Norris come to blows a few times this season. That happens again. Well, first and foremost, George Russell would be the happiest man out on track. But Zhou Guanyu scoring a point would also be a very welcome gift for what has been a horrible season for the Chinese driver. McLaren, if you bottle this, I'm stealing your F1 car. Not at the moment. Both of the McLaren cars running ahead of the Ferraris. They would elongate their lead in the Constructors' Championship. Remember, they need to be 44 points to the good going into Abu Dhabi. 44 points available to the Ferrari team. 26 points for a victory and a fastest lap, plus another 18 points for second place. So as long as McLaren are more than 44 points ahead of Ferrari, they would seal the Constructors' Championship here this weekend. Oscar Piastri just closing in to the back of George Russell again inside DRS range. Lando Norris has just set the fastest lap inside the McLaren. And actually, Oscar Piastri may be going for a move this time around. Piastri realizing that now might be the time to strike as Russell 6.5 seconds behind Norris. Piastri wants that final podium place for himself. And another double podium for McLaren would all but seal the Constructors' Championship. Lando for the win. It's definitely not over. Lando Norris has been able to very nicely keep up with Max Verstappen. That Red Bull car, though, just looking so much better than it did in the sprint yesterday. The changes that were made to the Red Bull setup clearly working beautifully. Oscar Piastri just getting all out of shape again at the final corner. Piastri can get a solid run out of turn 16. He's definitely on for an overtaking opportunity. Do I think Stakes Sauber could score points today? I think they need something to happen. Basically, I think they need a collision or a safety car or something to run in their favour. I don't think they'll do it on out-and-out pace. Fastest lap then goes to Max Verstappen. And George Russell is giving up the ghost, I think, and deciding to come in. There comes George Russell, then the first of the drivers in that front-running pack to pit. Nico Hulkenberg, the only driver left out on track, actually, that has already pitted, and his was forced after that puncture because of the collision with Esteban Ocon. Oh, and it's a slow stop for George Russell. The rear right tyre just wouldn't come off. And it's a 7-second stop. That is going to open the door to Oscar Piastri, surely, and possibly even Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz to get ahead of the Mercedes car. That is going to cost George Russell massively. I think they were hoping to come out ahead of the likes of Magnussen and Gasly, but instead he's now behind Magnussen, Gasly, and Alonso. Hamilton on the radio. How far are we off the front runners? 1.2 to the front. Hamilton just not very happy at all. Underbalanced. Lewis Hamilton wondering why he's so far off the pace. George Russell's slow stop then is going to cost him massively there. This could be a little bit of an opening for Ferrari to close in on the McLaren cars ahead. It was that rear right tyre. Just would not come off. The wheel nut was off, but the tyre itself seemed to be stuck on the rim. And unfortunately, that is going to really hamper George Russell's race, especially as he's trying to get those hard compound tyres up to temperature. He's going to have to do that now in traffic rather than in clean air. Yeah, it's going to be quite ugly now for George Russell. See what his pace is like once those hard tyres come good. But let's have a little look at it then. Mercedes scored 6 points. McLaren 34. Ferrari 22. So it'd be a 42-point gap as it stands between McLaren and Ferrari, which is just enough for Ferrari to be in the mix. As I say, it needs to be 44 points. That is all that is left in the final race of the season in Abu Dhabi for Ferrari to score. But 42 points, it would be pretty much done and dusted. Because all McLaren would need to do is score a couple of points. Let's have a little look then. Valtteri Bottas comes in for the Stake Sauber team. And let's see what Valtteri Bottas's pace is like as well on a slightly scrubbed set of hard compound tyres going on to Valtteri Bottas's car. A lot of drivers just staying out that little bit longer. No, McLaren, they'll leave Oscar out way too long. I hope not. It should play into their advantage anyway, because Russell's in so much dirty air now behind Alonso and Gasly, Magnussen. None of those three are really going to concede that place either. So Russell's going to have to try and get those overtakes done properly, which is not going to be very fun on a fresh set of hard compound tyres that you're trying to warm up gently. Who do I think will win at the moment? Max Verstappen's a very good bet, but it's 50-50. I think Lando Norris is well in the fight here. And especially as those medium tyres start to fall away, we'll just have to wait and see as to which one of Verstappen or Norris starts to lose time first, because Lando Norris has stayed pretty much exactly the same distance behind Max Verstappen since the safety car restart. It's been that kind of 1.5 to 2 second gap. McLaren needs to worry about Ferrari. I don't think so at the moment. Oscar Piastri maybe, because he's got a couple of seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc. But then if you look at the gap between Norris and Piastri, you're seeing so Max Verstappen and Lando Norris already down towards turn one. Piastri only just coming across the start-finish line. So there is a bit of a gap there. But Piastri looking very, very good for a podium spot now because of that George Russell slow stop. And George Russell's pace isn't substantially quicker. He's a little bit quicker than Alonso and Gasly ahead of him. But, you know, you look at George Russell's lap time there, 125.5. Norris on a 124.5. Verstappen a 124.7. Can't see the front runners jumping into the pits to need those hard compound tyres anytime soon. 31 laps left to go, of course. The one-stop strategy looking like the strategy that they'll go for. There was a few teams talking about the possibility of a two-stop, depending on how these tyres degraded, but the medium tyre holding on a little bit better than they maybe expected. Don't jinx it. Oh, George Russell. Car's just not turning. Yeah, George Russell not having much fun on the hard compound tyre at all by the looks of it. And you can kind of see that in its pace. Again, you don't know whether the traffic is causing George Russell to also just lose out a few tenths here and there. But he hasn't been able to, get past Fernando Alonso as of yet. He is now running 45 seconds off the lead, George Russell. Oh, thank you for becoming a member, mate. Appreciate that. Sidhant. Let's go for Sidhant. Apologies if I'm saying it wrong. Let me know. Thank you for becoming a member of the channel. Make sure that you hit the link and join the members Discord, because we have a little chat over there and a lot of the members perks come out first on that Discord channel. So join that members Discord. But massively appreciate you becoming a member, mate. Thank you so much. Norris may be setting purple laps, but the gap ain't changing. I think they're just sort of swapping purple laps between Verstappen and Norris at the moment. Haas car comes in. Kevin Magnussen pits a 2.9 second stop. Was running best of the rest, Kevin Magnussen. That now releases Pierre Gasly. I think that's a really good stop from Kevin Magnussen, actually, because he's going to come out behind Liam Lawson by a good chunk. Going to have a lovely bit of clean air to run into as Kevin Magnussen. That's going to play into their hands. Let's see if Alpine cover him off. It's an Indian name, that's why you can pronounce it. I'm not too bad with names if I've seen them before, but I just haven't seen that one. Apologies. But if you let me know how to say it, I'll say it correct for the rest of time. Why did I choose the name not applicable? Because it was already on the channel like that. It was a really old podcast that I was going to start with an old flatmate of mine, basically. Here we are then. We're just about to tick over to the halfway point of this race. 29 laps completed. 28 laps left to go. Once Max Verstappen comes around this final sector, he's just dispatching Valtteri Bottas. The back markers starting to get overtaken. I know that Valtteri Bottas has pitted, but even so. Lando Norris now also trying to get past. Fernando Alonso causing headaches for George Russell. Russell still not past the Aston Martin of Alonso. Alonso now running up in 9th. Of course, slightly up. Oh, yellow flag in Sector 1. What's happened there? Lando Norris, Valtteri Bottas going through? Not really sure, to be honest. I think it's maybe just a fault because it's just showing yellow flag, yellow flag, green flag in that first sector. Oh, someone's lost a wing mirror. That's why. There's a wing mirror on the middle of the straight. Where has that come from? Gonna have to look at all of the onboards now and check which cars are missing a wing mirror. Wow, okay. George Russell trying to go for an overtake on Fernando Alonso. Be careful of that wing mirror, lads. But no, he is in. Lando Norris on the radio. Lando Norris can't hear. Lando Norris saying, if you've got any pace, go for it now. And Lando Norris then... Oh, thank you, Sid. I've just seen you come through on the Discord. I'll make you a member. Appreciate that, mate. The wing mirror. Ah. Ferrari. Oh. dummy pit stop, maybe. I think they were maybe hoping for a virtual safety car or possibly even a safety car at Ferrari. That wing mirror is still there. I mean, it's right in the middle of the track, so it's a little bit of a weird one. Wing mirrors are a suggestion. You'd think that they would they'd need that wing mirror. Unless you're Lance Stroll. No, I'm joking. Here we go. That's why Lando Norris is trying to get within touching distance of Verstappen. The undercut threat is there. And the McLaren team thinking about trying to go for that undercut on Verstappen's Red Bull. Verstappen has responded, though. And Verstappen asking on the radio, check if Lando Norris lifted for the yellow. Ooh, getting very interesting indeed. He's looking at Lando Norris and thinking, I don't know if you slowed down enough there, Lando, for that yellow flag. Of course, has to lift. If there's a yellow flag being waved, you have to lift. You have to drop your speed significantly, to be fair. You do end up seeing it. Yeah, we need something to happen. Maybe a virtual safety car or maybe even a full safety car at this point. Although a full safety car I feel like would kill the race for a few of these drivers. But we need that wing mirror gone because there is still a yellow flag being waved in that first sector. And that is our overtaking opportunity down towards turn 1. So nobody being able to make overtakes either at the moment. What happened to Stroll? Guys, please answer. Please. Lance Stroll hit into the side of Alex Albon, which was kind of his fault. And then ended up dropping out of the race because of that collision. So it's not too much to say, to be honest. Nico Hülkenberg coming into the pits for the Haas team. And Nico Hülkenberg then. Second pit stop for him. Obviously a puncture at the first corner for Nico Hülkenberg after that collision with Esteban Ocon, which led to the Frenchman dropping out of the Grand Prix. Hülkenberg comes back out. Still ahead of Valtteri Bottas there, though. Bottas's pace has kind of dropped off substantially since he's gone onto that hard compound tyre. Lando Norris then. Let's have a little look. Oh, just went a little bit wide. Final turn did Lando Norris. You looking for that Lando Norris lift? Difficult to tell. Listening to it, didn't sound like he lifted, to be honest. We'll have to wait and see. Lando Norris, though, has actually fallen away from Max Verstappen significantly. You know, it was always in and around 1.5 seconds. Now 2.5 seconds, the gap between Verstappen and Norris. Fastest laps being set by Max Verstappen. Makes you wonder, when are the McLaren team going to blink? A lot of teams going a lot longer on this medium compound tyre than we were expecting. Nobody wanting to change onto the hards. Oh! And somebody's just gone straight over that wing mirror. And I think it was the Steak Sauber of Valtteri Bottas. And Valtteri Bottas, they're going to be thinking that piece of debris should have probably been removed by somebody at some point. Virtual safety car, one way or another. But Valtteri Bottas has now run over it. And if anything, you've now got those shards of wing mirror just strewn across the racing line. Oh, and it's a puncture. There you go. For Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton's got a puncture. Has that come from that wing mirror? Oh, this could get very controversial. That debris, that wing mirror has just been run over by Valtteri Bottas. And now Lewis Hamilton has a puncture. And Lewis Hamilton is in a lot of trouble now. Pierre Gasly's just making his way past. And Hamilton is going to have to run all the way around with that puncture. Oh, and there's another puncture. Carlos Sainz has got a puncture as well. Carlos Sainz has got a puncture. Everybody's got a puncture. Oh my goodness me. Here comes Oscar Piastri into the pits. Carlos Sainz is running around with a puncture as well. And it must be because of that debris. This is so stupid. So stupid. The debris is all over the racetrack now. And surely that has been what has caused those punctures. Carlos Sainz comes into the pits to box. And obviously a very slow stop for Carlos Sainz because they couldn't get that tyre off. Carlos Sainz, a 9.8 second stop for the Ferrari. Oh, this has entered a little bit of a weird mix, hasn't it? Joe in the points as it stands. Yeah, Joe Guang Yu. I did say if a couple of drivers in the top 8 have a bit of a nightmare, could be. And here comes the safety car. Oh, it's played horribly. If you're Lewis Hamilton or Carlos Sainz or Oscar Piastri actually as well, just came into pit. The safety car is not what you wanted to see at all. Verstappen coming into the pits. Norris coming into the pits. And Hamilton, that 5-second penalty. So he has to stay stationary. And also jumps out. Verstappen then leading. Actually takes over Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton now being lapped by Max Verstappen, the leader in the pit lane. Safety car seems a little bit too late, doesn't it? Charles Leclerc comes in for Ferrari. Charles Leclerc is now going to be running in 3rd place because Oscar Piastri has had to slow down significantly because of that safety car. So the big loser there, Oscar Piastri, in terms of those front runners. George Russell will gain back a couple of those positions because of the safety car. Sergio Perez has done really well as well. Where's Sergio Perez going to come out? Is Perez going to come out in front of Russell? He might do, you know. Sergio Perez might come out in front of George Russell here. It's going to be pretty tight. I'm just looking at where George Russell... No, Russell's just coming around the final corner. Yeah, Sergio Perez is going to come out in front of Russell. Russell's going to pit, actually. Russell's going to pit. Carlos Sainz complaining that there is a little bit of a feeling. Yeah, to be fair, there might be damage. Well, quite a lot of damage, I'd imagine, to the underside of that Ferrari car and the front left side of that Ferrari. Joe Guan Yu comes in. Gasly comes in. Alonso's in as well. Everybody taking this opportunity to pit under the safety car. Come back out again. George Russell out in front of Carlos Sainz. Fernando Alonso, not quite. Yeah, Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz has dropped then massively behind George Russell now. Fernando Alonso's gained in there. Fernando Alonso up to 9th. Joe Guan Yu running in the points. Kevin Magnussen has lost out. He drops down to 11th. Tsunoda 12th. Albon 13th. Lawson 14th. Hulkenberg 15th. Lewis Hamilton all the way down to 16th place. Ouch. I am at the track, says Dimple Josie. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. You can just put it once. All right. And it's a lot of debris, actually, elsewhere. But Valtteri Bottas running over that wing mirror was a huge turning point in this Grand Prix. Oh, and George Russell not very happy at all. He didn't want a set of hard compound tyres. I think he might have wanted some mediums. Just sort of read in between the lines. That was a very, very poignant radio message from George Russell there. But there it was. So Valtteri Bottas ran over that wing mirror. And yeah, it was that debris that caused the puncture for Carlos Sainz and also Lewis Hamilton. Because Hamilton going down towards turn 1. You can see the tyre already deflating. Carlos Sainz, a puncture as well. Wow, Carlos Sainz and Lewis Hamilton, so unlucky. So unlucky. Both of them that front left tyre as well. Wow. To get a puncture there as well. Like literally the highest speed part of the track. And then yeah, the Ferrari pit stop didn't help at all, did it? A rogue mirror on the circuit. Goodness gracious me. Oh, you're... Okay, yeah, it's just being a knob. Let's time you out. Half an hour. Safety car is out though. 21 laps left to go. Safety car still running around. As it stands, McLaren would gain 30 points. Ferrari would gain 19. So still not quite enough of a gap. Be 41 points that McLaren would gain to Ferrari. So again, still not quite enough to seal that Constructors' Championship. Max Verstappen still asking about that yellow flag incident with Lando Norris behind. Thank you for subscribing. If we can, hit that like button whilst we're running around behind the safety car. There's not a lot happening at the moment, so hit that like button if you have been enjoying the stream. Massively, massively helps us out. Ooh, and Fernando Alonso going wheel-to-wheel with Kevin Magnussen in the pit lane. Magnussen on the radio. They are level with one another through the pit lane. Fernando Alonso then just getting ahead in the pits. Not sure. Gonna be interesting to see. Oh, puff of smoke from, I think that was Lewis Hamilton maybe, or Lando Norris as they come through the pit lane once more. But as I was saying, yeah, hit that like button. That'd be absolutely amazing. Subscribe if you are new. And a couple of new members as well. Becoming a member is the best way to support the channel. And it gets you access to some extra content behind the scenes and bits and pieces. Lots of watch-alongs and bits and pieces coming over the winter break. So now's probably the best time to become a member of the channel. Or you can join Patreon if you prefer to do it that way. Again, you get the same benefits, whether you're a patron or a member. Just wanting to give people options in terms of what they could choose to use. Why is there a safety car out? Loads of debris on the straight at the moment, or the pit straight, I should say, which they are trying to get out. There was a wing mirror on the circuit. That wing mirror was then hit by Valtteri Bottas and just sprayed shards of debris all over the place. And Lewis Hamilton. Oh, Lando Norris calling out Lewis Hamilton for possibly brake testing him going into the pit lane. Lapped cars may now overtake. So Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas have been released, as you can see, just in front of the safety car. On the track map, you can see them just coming towards turn 12 and 13, where Max Verstappen and Lando Norris still behind the safety car as it stands. But that has just grouped everybody back together again. Probably one more lap behind the safety car, I would imagine, just whilst Hamilton and Bottas catch up. And here we are then. So we're going to get back underway with Max Verstappen still leading. Lando Norris in second place, still behind. Both of them swapped onto the hard compound tyre now. So we'll see if Lando Norris can gain and finally overtake Max Verstappen, or whether Verstappen's going to hold on to the lead here. Charles Leclerc down in third place. Fourth place now, Oscar Piastri. Sergio Perez has gained massively here. He's up into fifth. Gasly also gaining and jumping up into sixth place. George Russell, who is very, very annoyed to be on the hard compound tyre, is in seventh. Carlos Sainz has dropped down to eighth. A really, really disappointing puncture for Carlos Sainz, dropping him all the way down there, although Lewis Hamilton has fallen back even further. At the moment, as it stands, Alpine would gain 8 points with Pierre Gasly. That would put them in a 5-point lead in the Constructors' Championship, by the way. Then down, Zhou Guanyu is on for his first point-scoring place of the season. And it's so nice, he might do it twice. 2 points for Zhou Guanyu if he finishes up in 9th place. Fernando Alonso running in 10th. Kevin Magnussen 11th. Yuki Tsunoda 12th. Alex Albon 13th. Nico Hülkenberg in 14th, Liam Lawson 15th, and those two lapped cars just coming around, Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas. So the safety car is indeed ending. Verstappen, Norris, Leclerc are top three at the moment. Piastri, though, did lose out under the safety car conditions. Sergio Perez and Pierre Gasly, though, massively benefiting. Perez up to 5th, Gasly up to 6th. Very happy indeed they will be. Zhou Guanyu also gaining a couple of positions because of the timing of the safety car and where everybody decided to pit. What happened to Carlos Sainz? Carlos Sainz had a puncture. So was running behind Charles Leclerc, quite comfortably behind his teammate, to be honest. Both of the Ferraris looking set to finish side by side, but Carlos Sainz then a puncture because of that debris. And that puncture dropping him down to 8th place after a slow lap and also a slow pit stop. Max Verstappen then is going to let the safety car disappear away as they come towards turn 15 now. Is Max going to go now? Lando Norris closing into the rear end of the Red Bull car. Knows that Max Verstappen is going to go sometime soon. Verstappen just backing up the pack. Green flag is waved. And here we go around turn 16. Max Verstappen goes for it. Gets a little bit of a wiggle. Does Max Verstappen, although so does Lando Norris. And Lando Norris is going to have a lovely little toe down towards turn 1. Of course, no DRS to assist him. Zhou Guanyu is under pressure from Fernando Alonso. But Lewis, here we go. Lando Norris going to try and go around the outside of turn 1. Max Verstappen's going to close the gap and does. Verstappen goes super wide through turn 1. Piastri has a little look at Leclerc. Leclerc is pushed wide too. Kevin Magnussen has lost a position. And then Magnussen gets it back. George Russell has managed to gain massively as well. Gasly now down in 7th place. Carlos Sainz has come round and up back into 6th place. And the second safety car restart has really shuffled the pack. Gasly now trying to get back ahead of Carlos Sainz. There's a yellow flag in sector 3, which is Sergio Perez. Something's gone on with Sergio Perez. Didn't even realize the Mexican has dropped all the way out of it. And a yellow flag in sector 3. What happened to Sergio Perez here? Perez just lost drive. Turn 15 before the safety car restart. Sergio Perez lost drive, went for a spin, and someone went into the back of him. Virtual safety car, and it's Nico Hülkenberg also in the gravel. So Sergio Perez has come to a stop. Nico Hülkenberg has come to a stop. It's going to be a virtual safety car, probably a full safety car, I'd imagine. There it is. Another safety car. And Sergio Perez, I think, was hit after losing drive behind the second safety car that we've had. And Sergio Perez then is going to DNF. So is Nico Hülkenberg. The safety car is going to pick up Max Verstappen once again. Sergio Perez is just being wheeled off the racetrack. Ooh, and a few cars diving into the pits. Deciding to swap tyres and maybe gamble. It's the RBs. Tsunoda and Lawson then, both diving into the pits. A double stop for them. What are they going to do here? Is it mediums or softs? Soft compound tyres onto the RB and soft compound tyres onto the RB of Liam Lawson as well. So they're going for a completely different strategy to end this Grand Prix. Alex Albon is also on soft compound tyres in the Williams car. What odd race indeed it's been, Sally. It's just completely gone haywire. Another safety car. This is Sergio Perez then. Still has drive, going around turn 15. Ooh. Did he get here or did he just spin? I think he just spun. Something must have happened inside of that Red Bull car. Down the main straight. Max Verstappen. Still giving space, Is there a car's whip there? Max Verstappen might be under investigation there for that move down in towards turn 1. It's hard racing, although they both did stay on the track, so maybe, just maybe. Oscar Piastri also tried his absolute best to try and get past Charles Leclerc. George Russell had a really good restart. Ran at the back of the Alpine of Pierre Gasly, went round the outside at turn 1, and then cut back in. Oh, Gasly went wide. That was why Gasly went straight in turn 1. Big lockup. Gasly broke so late into turn 1. That could have easily wiped out George Russell, but George Russell getting out of it. Gasly running across the front of him. Carlos Sainz down in 7th still. Fernando Alonso up to 8th all of a sudden. Zhou Guanyu still running in the points, by the way. Is up in 9th place still. Magnussen back up into the points as well, into 10th, now that Sergio Perez has dropped out. Nico Hülkenberg also retires. So 5 cars have now retired from this Grand Prix. Oh. Here we are then. The investigations are coming in. Let's have a little look at them. And there might be a penalty coming Lando Norris's way. Investigating failing to slow under yellow flags is Lando Norris being investigated for. Alex Albon is currently being investigated as well for causing a collision. Oh no, that one's gone ages ago. Valtteri Bottas, what's that one? Liam Lawson, he got the penalty for that. Pit entry incident involving Piastri, investigated after the session. Interesting. Okay. Lando Norris now under investigation for failing to slow under the safety car conditions. Ouch. Not very good if you're a Lando Norris fan. If he does get that 5-second or 10-second penalty, whatever it ends up being, that is the end of his race. In terms of fighting for the victory, Hamilton on the radio. Hamilton not very happy at all, wondering what position he's even in. Currently P12 indeed. Another safety car. Whilst we're under the safety car, let's hit that like button again. Let's see how many likes we can get before we get back underway. We are ending this safety car, so hit that like button. And we've got 16 laps left to go. Thank you guys for all of your support throughout the season. One more race to come. And still 15 laps to run here in Qatar. Max Verstappen again closing the gap. And Max Verstappen going much earlier this time around than he did last time around. And let's see then. Max Verstappen, Lando Norris. Lando Norris actually more likely to be under pressure from Leclerc than move forwards this time around. Lando Norris peels off to try and defend from Charles Leclerc. Leclerc's going to try and go around the outside. And the Ferrari trying, but not able to do so. Leclerc slots back into 3rd place. Piastri 4th, Russell 5th. A little bit of a movement there. I think Kevin Magnussen has lost a position to Alex Albon. Lewis Hamilton also lost out to Valtteri Bottas on the restart. Hamilton really struggling. Hamilton now dropping behind Yuki Tsunoda as well. Tsunoda on the soft compound tyre. And we'll keep an eye actually on Tsunoda and Lawson, because on that soft compound tyre, he might be able to do something a little bit special at the end here. Yeah, the last race of the season is going to be very, very weird indeed, isn't it? As you say, Lewis, Carlos moving, Ocon moving, Bottas leaving, Kevin Magnussen leaving. A lot of drivers Oh, check the front left. See some sparks coming from it and have a vibration. Oscar Piastri. Has Piastri got a puncture? Even though they have managed, or they seemingly came out on track and cleared up all of that debris. Oscar Piastri now worried about those vibrations coming from the front left. It was the front left of Sainz and Hamilton that did puncture. Piastri, though, within DRS range of Leclerc. Still no DRS range. No DRS as of yet. George Russell also behind in 5th. Gasly 6th. Sainz in 7th. Zhou Guanyu running in 9th place. Alex Albon, yeah, is up into 10th place and a point scoring place for the Williams. Oscar being told over the radio that everything looks okay at the moment. Lando Norris is within DRS range of Max Verstappen, by the way. Charles Leclerc has dropped outside of DRS range, but Piastri is going to be there behind Charles Leclerc. And this was the move from Alex Albon on the safety car restart. Just got right under the rear wing of the Haas of Kevin Magnussen. Saw the move down towards turn 1. And there is the penalty for Lando Norris. Lando Norris, that penalty comes through. A 10-second penalty for not slowing under yellow flags. And even if if Lando Norris does take the lead of this Grand Prix, I can't imagine him getting 10 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen. So now Lando Norris probably just going to sit in 2nd place. This is going to be a slightly dull end, unfortunately, as Lando Norris is now going for it, to be fair. Down towards turn 1. DRS wide open for the McLaren car. Is he going to try and go around the outside of turn 1? Not this time around. But Lando Norris within DRS range. Here comes Carlos Sainz on Pierre Gasly. The Alpine doing everything that he can to try and clinch 6th place in the constructor standings. As it stands, Gasly would score a solid 8 points for Alpine. And all of a sudden, they are looking beautiful for 6th place in the constructor standings after Haas did such a good job in the sprint race yesterday. Max Verstappen. And he's being told over the radio that Norris has been given that 10-second stop and go penalty. So Lando Norris has decided to drift off the back of Max Verstappen. Here we go then. Lando Norris has got to come in sooner rather than later, you'd imagine, for the McLaren team for that 10-second stop and go. Oh. Lando Norris on the radio says nothing, and he dives into the pits and is going to now release Charles Leclerc into 2nd place. Lewis Hamilton has also been investigated for speeding in the pit lane. Could go from bad to worse for Lewis Hamilton in all of this. It's been absolute madness, this Grand Prix. It was really looking like towards the middle of it, it was just going to end up being quite a standard run to the finish. Lando Norris now, stop and go penalty. He's in the pits. 10 seconds he has to wait. Stationary inside the car. And Lando Norris is now going to come out. And because of that safety car, he's going to come out all the way at the back of the pack, Lando Norris, because everyone was bunched up just a couple of laps ago. Failing to slow under the yellow flags. That is a silly, silly penalty, but one that Lando Norris now has to deal with. And Lando Norris is going to be right at the back in 15th place. Max Verstappen now leading comfortably. Charles Leclerc, 3.5 seconds adrift. Piastri in 3rd. Russell up into 4th now. Gasly is up into 5th. Alpine with another possible brilliant finish. Alpine are looking absolutely stunning right now. Sainz 6th, Alonso 7th. Zhou Guanyu is on for a 4-point finish. Albon in 9th place. Magnussen 10th. Hamilton, Norris, and Perez. Those kind of 3 drivers that you'd expect to see up in the point scoring places at the moment. Outside of them, And Zhou Guanyu wanting to be left alone on the radio, telling his engineer, thanks for the help, but no thanks. Wants to just be left alone to go for it. He is pushing, is Zhou Guanyu right now on those hard tyres. Drive-through penalty for Lewis Hamilton, speeding in the pit lane. So Hamilton has got another penalty to serve. That's going to put Valtteri Bottas up into 12th place. Sorry, up into 11th place. Alpine, if they manage to nab 6th place in the Constructors' Championship, that is absolutely disgusting, isn't it? The fact that they have done. Fair enough. Double podium finish in Brazil. Beautiful for them. But now also Gasly, just in the right place at the right time. Perfectly put together for him. 5th place finish on the cars. 10 points that would be for Pierre Gasly. Alex Albon is now under investigation for forcing Kevin Magnussen wide. Lando just did it. Hamilton now serving that drive-through penalty. Hamilton on the radio asking to retire the car. And I think he is just going to retire it, isn't he? No. Well, he's got to serve the penalty, I guess. So, drive-through penalty for Lewis Hamilton. He drops back to 15th place now. Lando Norris 14th. Hamilton 15th. Didn't Alpine start the season P19 and P20? Oh, Alpine started this season with an absolute tractor of a car. So far adrift of everyone else. But the craziness of this race and the madness of Brazil put them back into contention. Haas have done everything right, you would say. Kevin Magnussen was running really well. Caught out by the safety car. Hulkenberg scored a couple of points in the sprint. But Alpine, Pierre Gasly in particular, has been stunning in the last 4 or 5 races. And now looks to be on for a 5th place finish. Even if Carlos Sainz passes him, a 6th place finish would be amazing at this point in the season for Alpine. If we look at the championships as they would be, it's just insane. Obviously, Ferrari would now actually close the gap to McLaren because Lando Norris has dropped all the way down to 14th. So that's not very good for them in the constructor standings, and definitely puts it in contention for Abu Dhabi. Like, it could either go either way really, really easily in Abu Dhabi for those two. And then, yeah, Alpine jump up into 6th place and Haas drop down to 7th as it stands. Absolutely mental. An epic fight for the Constructors' Championship could be on in Abu Dhabi. I mean, Ferrari could even take the lead here in the Constructor standings if Carlos Sainz is able to jump Gasly and get towards George Russell. Maybe something goes wrong for Piastri. Piastri was struggling with the vibrations in his McLaren car. 9 laps left to go, and anything can happen. I don't want to say anything at this point. Because Zhou Guanyu running in 8th place. Valtteri Bottas running in 11th. Even Stake Sauber could score a good chunk of points here this weekend. Here we go then. Charles Leclerc running in 2nd spot. 4 seconds adrift of Verstappen. Piastri then a second behind. Russell a 2.5 seconds. Gasly 3.5 seconds. It is just Carlos Sainz versus Pierre Gasly, which is the only real battle to play out because Alonso's then a couple of seconds behind. Joe 4 seconds. Magnussen 4 seconds. Albon 2 seconds. Bottas 2 seconds. So the only car within touching distance of another is Carlos Sainz right now, who is right behind Pierre Gasly. Apart from that, we should be done and dusted here. Why hasn't Hamilton retired from the race? I imagine because the team has asked him to continue. It's never a good look if you retire from the race without some kind of mechanical fault of some kind. If you retire from the race just because you can't be bothered, it's never a great look for the team or for the driver. And Kevin Magnussen getting that move done on Alex Albon. And an expletive said by Kevin Magnussen as he moves that position up into 9th place to score another point for the Haas team for this weekend. The thing is, it's just Kevin Magnussen falling, like, 9th place is a great finish for the Haas team, but it's just not going to happen, is it? Like, Gasly running in 5th is just ridiculous. Max Verstappen, though, another victory for him. Lando Norris has just caught up to the back of the RB of Liam Lawson. Those soft compound tyres not working anymore for the RB. It was a gamble, but a gamble that did not pay off. And Tsunoda and Lawson are going to finish at the back of this pack, you'd imagine, unless Hamilton has fully given up. Lando Norris then. Lando Norris maybe looking to get a point score in place, actually. Let's keep an eye on Lando Norris. Just seeing that he's doing 124.6s. Albon doing 126.7s. So maybe, just maybe, Oscar Piastri behind Charles Leclerc has made another. Just gone a little bit wide as Oscar Piastri. A touch of gravel on the rear left tyre of Oscar Piastri's car. Zach Brown feeling the pressure a little bit there in the McLaren garage. Sauber double points finish. I think there's a McLaren car that is going to ruin that being a possibility, because Lando Norris has also just caught up to the back of Yuki Tsunoda within a lap. And Valtteri Bottas actually is catching up to the back of Alex Albon. So Alex Albon's soft compound tyres have fallen apart. Bottas is going to move up into the points here. Bottas is going to take 10th place from Alex Albon. But you can see, and Valtteri Bottas is pushed wide by Alex Albon. Lando Norris then gets past Yuki Tsunoda, almost gets past. That was a little bit sort of skeptical from Alex Albon there. I know Alex Albon's fighting for that final point scoring place. I mean, I think that final point scoring place is going to go to Lando Norris, but Albon and Bottas are going to make it a little bit harder. Bottas right under the rear wing. Carlos Sainz is actually falling away, and Fernando Alonso is catching up to the back of them. 5 laps to go. Max Verstappen is going to comfortably take the victory, but there's a few little point scoring places that could go one way or another here. Carlos Sainz still trying to get in front of Gasly. Alonso closing into the back of the other Spaniard. Zhou Guanyu is actually flying around in 8th place. And that's why Carlos Sainz made a mistake there. That's why Fernando Alonso managed to gain so much. Valtteri Bottas tried to make a move on Albon. Is going to try again, you would imagine, is Valtteri Bottas. Here we go then. Bottas is ahead of Alex Albon going in towards turn 1. Is he going to be able to make it stick? Yes. Bottas finally gets that move done on Alex Albon a lap later than he'd have wanted to. But Lando Norris is right there. Alex Albon trying to keep in front of Lando. Lando Norris coming up the inside of Albon, and Norris gets 11th place. So here we go. Lando Norris now on an absolute tear. Has the fastest lap of the race as well, Lando Norris. So trying to get just a few more of those points back. At the moment, they would be, 19 points ahead in terms of the constructor standings. So a couple of points that just elongates it to 21, 22 going into next weekend's finale. But the Constructors' Championship looking like it was going to be done, honestly. If Lando Norris would have finished in 2nd and Charles Leclerc behind 3rd, Piastri then 4th, I think the Constructors' Championship would have all but been done. Now, 20 points swing. It's not impossible for Ferrari to get that, especially if there is like a DNF or something for one of the McLaren cars. Carlos Sainz still trying to get past Pierre Gasly. Can't. The Alpine doing a great job at defending. Here comes Lando Norris on Valtteri Bottas. The final point scoring place available. A couple of points up for grabs for Lando Norris. And he's going to grab it with both hands. Lando Norris up into 10th place. That would be 2 points for Lando Norris then in this. After running in 2nd place for so long, it's not really what he would have wanted. Alex Albon finally gets that penalty for pushing Kevin Magnussen wide. It's a 10-second penalty for Alex Albon. He's already outside of the points though, and won't make too much of a difference to Alex Albon's final finishing position. Drop back behind a couple of RBs, but won't make any difference. Lewis Hamilton is fully on the beach right now. He's just running around in 15th place. He's capturing the back of the RB cars as Lewis Hamilton, but Lando now up into the points. Couple of points for McLaren then if he stays in 10th place, because he'll get the fastest lap point as well. Carlos Sainz, though, trying to gain a couple of points for Ferrari. This time around, Gasly is a little bit out of position going in towards turn 1. Carlos Sainz looks at the maneuver. Has he got an opportunity? No. Gasly closes the door. And down in towards turn 2, the Alpine stays ahead. Gasly just carried that speed through. And the fastest lap of the race goes to Lando Norris once again. Lando Norris on the hunt for Kevin Magnussen ahead. 8.8 seconds. The gap, though, is just going to be a little bit too much, even if it is just a Haas in front of him. Here we go, then. Pierre Gasly still trying to get ahead. Carlos Sainz, though, trying to get those couple of extra points. It's going to be very tight indeed. 2 laps left to go after this one. Max Verstappen just coming around the final corner. Charles Leclerc now 6 seconds adrift. Here's a replay of Lando Norris. What happened here? Down in towards turn 1. A little mistake maybe from Lando. Yeah, just got a little bit wide on the exit of turn 1. Pushing very, very hard indeed is Lando Norris. He's kind of done what he needed to do though, hasn't he, Lando? He's got the fastest lap. It's not really going to be caught up by anybody else. Oh. George Russell has been noted for a safety car infringement. Tell you what, if that gets him a 10-second penalty, then Pierre Gasly could gain another place here. Gasly finishing 4th, just outside of the podium places, is actually on. If that penalty does come George Russell's way, usually when that kind of thing is noted, it's a pretty slam dunk penalty. Oh, Alex Albon pits. For Williams, I think those soft compound tyres are literally just falling off of that car at this point. Alex Albon pitting. Goodness me. Gasly recharging a lot, trying to save his battery where possible is Pierre Gasly. Final lap of the Grand Prix then. Max Verstappen 6.5 seconds ahead of Leclerc. Piastri is 3rd, a second behind the Ferrari. Could have been 2nd place for Piastri there, of course. Lost out in that safety car madness, having pitted. Here goes then Carlos Sainz down towards turn 1. Is he going to have a little look at Pierre Gasly this time around? I think Gasly's going to have just enough. Saved enough energy in that battery. And the Alpine is going to come away from turn 3 ahead of Carlos Sainz. Gasly has done an exceptional job here of defending that position, being in the right place at the right time again. Alpine have just been so good at judging those kind of safety cars, virtual safety cars over these last few races, being in the right place at the right time. Gasly now up into 5th place and is going to finish there. And that is huge for the constructor standings if he can finish there. Max Verstappen, though, is just coming around at the final couple of corners. And again, we have to say Max Verstappen has been by far and away the best driver out on track. He got the lead at the beginning. He's going to lead at the end. And Max Verstappen comes across the line to take victory here in Qatar, our 2024 World Championship winner. wins again. Charles Leclerc comes home in second. Piastri comes home in third spot. George Russell in fourth for now. But will he get that penalty? Pierre Gasly comes across the line fifth. Carlos Sainz in sixth place. Fernando Alonso seventh. Zhou Guanyu, 4 points place. In eighth place finish for Zhou Guanyu. The first points for Stake Sauber of the season. And points for Zhou Guanyu. Kevin Magnussen comes home in ninth place to score 2 more points for Haas, and Lando Norris then gets 2 points on the board for McLaren. Could have been a second place. Instead, it's 2 points. Valtteri Bottas is coming home 11th, just outside of the point scoring places. Hamilton, Tsunoda, Lawson, and Albon will be the final runners. We had Nico Hülkenberg, Sergio Perez, Lance Stroll, Esteban Ocon, and Franco Colapinto all retire from the Grand Prix. Wow. Wow. Let's take a look at what that does to the championship then. So McLaren gained 17 points, Ferrari gained 26. The gap, 21 points going into the final race of the season. 44 points available still, remember. So more than enough for Ferrari to take that Constructors' Championship victory. Obviously, Red Bull gaining 25 points there with Max Verstappen. Mercedes gained 12 thanks to George Russell at the moment. Then Alpine get the jump on Haas. A 10-point finish for the Alpine of Pierre Gasly. Puts them back up into 6th place in the standings. They have a 5-point lead over Haas. If Haas can score 6 points in the final race of the season, it'd be very, very impressive. Puts all the pressure back on Nico Hülkenberg and Kevin Magnussen after that drive from Pierre Gasly. A stunning drive from Pierre Gasly, which actually puts him up into 11th place in the standings. Just 1 point adrift of Nico Hülkenberg, by the way. So Pierre Gasly could end up finishing kind of best of the rest outside of Fernando Alonso with another point scored for Alpine. Tsunoda down to 12th place now. Lance Stroll 13th. Ocon 14th. Magnussen 15th. Albon 16th. Zhou Guanyu there jumps up 20th place. 4 points scored now. Liam Lawson 4 points as well. But oh, and George Russell, there's the confirmation of the penalty. It's a 5-second penalty. So that does not change anything in terms of the race result there for George Russell. Here was our final standings then. Max Verstappen has made his way around and he takes first place here in Qatar. His Red Bull comes to a stop in front of the number 1. Charles Leclerc and Oscar Piastri will join him on the podium. George Russell in 4th, Gasly 5th, Carlos Sainz 6th, Fernando Alonso in 7th place for Aston Martin. A great race for the Spaniard, even though he was complaining at the start of the Aston Martin having not quite enough straight line speed. Managed to turn it around in the safety car ridiculousness. Zhou Guanyu finished up 8th place, his first point scoring place of the season and the first points for Stake Sauber of the year. Kevin Magnussen 9th place and Lando Norris the final point scoring position in 10th. He also got the fastest lap for an extra bonus point. Valtteri Bottas, Lewis Hamilton, Yuki Tsunoda, Liam Lawson and Alex Albon finished the Grand Prix with Nico Hülkenberg, Sergio Perez, Lance Stroll, Esteban Ocon and Franco Colapinto DNFing from it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you could leave a like, that would be absolutely amazing. Hit that subscribe button as well. Make sure that you get your questions in over on the community tab for the post-race. And I'll be reading through them and putting together my post-race analysis over the next couple of hours. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like, subscribe, as I just said. And I will see you one more time in this 2024 season for Abu Dhabi in just a week's time. It is looking very tasty indeed. The Constructors' Championship will be on the line. 6th place in the Constructors' Championship might just swing one way or another. It is going to be very tight indeed.